What is up, guys? Welcome back to Coaches to the Moon. Today, we're talking about confidence, the inner confidence that helps you to stand taller, to achieve more, to feel better, to love better, to communicate better, and where it all stems from. And to help us with that, I have a guest, William Brokloff from Advanced Life Coaching, a man who's been through the ringer himself, from a very difficult childhood and teenage life to some really dark days in his younger years, to now being a confidence coach, student of psychology, who is helping men, especially mining and fly-in, fly-out workers, to increase their own self-belief, their own self-confidence, and he's doing that with some discipline. He's doing that with some ass kicking, and we jump into that today as well. What's the best way to approach discipline and self-improvement these days? Is it through the hustle, the grind, the discipline? Is it through more self-love and slowing down? Is it the combination of both? Really interesting conversation, touching on some big names like Joe Rogan, Harry Styles, and maybe even Donald Trump in this episode. So if you would love to hear a great story, get some little tips on how to feel better every single day when you wake up and be proud of what you've achieved, listen to this episode now with William Brokloff. Here he is on Coaches to the Moon.
This is Coaches to the Moon, the only podcast you need to skyrocket your coaching business and create true impact on the world. Here's your host, Alex Morris.
Welcome back to the Coaches to the Moon podcast, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 110. Goodness gracious me, we're well into the triple digits, and I'm very excited to be joined by the young and enthusiastic William Brokloff, a good friend of mine, a confidence coach with a very interesting story from working in the mines, his own transitions from anxiety to being the confident man who sits before us today, spending 18 years now in Australia, but originally from the shores, well, not the shores, the Great Lakes of, I'd imagine, sometimes sunny, sometimes very chilly Ontario in Canada, but now residing in Perth, Australia. William Billy B. Brokloff, thanks for being here, mate.
Hello, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
You know what? I bought a hot sauce yesterday called Billy B's Hot Sauce, and I thought, why do you not go by Billy B?
Yeah, I've got the same hot sauce. Bought it as a bit of a meme. It's from Woolies. It goes good.
It goes really well. Yeah, fermented. Yeah, no, I'm loving that. I'm sure you like a bit of fermented food because you're a healthy guy. You love all the hacks. You into it?
Yeah, the biohacking, I'm all about it, man. Yeah, increase your testosterone, lower that estrogen, and get after it, eh?
Well, being in your 20s definitely helps. Doing 30
does, man. Yeah, certainly. I'm not looking forward to hitting that 30 mark and having that decline, but away she goes.
It's not so bad, man. It's not so bad. Sometimes it's harder to put on size and drop fat, but it's much easier to grow a sensational beard.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that.
You'll get there one day, man. But yeah, you're we were just talking before we came on. You came from Canada to Australia in about 2008. That's when I came here in about 2003, I believe, from England. And you've got such a great Canadian accent still, and I assumed you've been here for like a year, but I was wrong.
Yeah, no, I've been here for a while now, and as I was saying before, I really didn't like having a accent as a child, but now it's great. It's a nice icebreaker. It's good. You sound unique, but it's good, man. I moved over here in 2008 with family during like the whole mining boom. Moved like all around Australia, from Whyalla, Adelaide, Brisbane, Canberra, Kalgoorlie, and Perth. So yeah, it's nice. Really kind of got a taste of everywhere in Australia, which is nice. Obviously some pros and cons came with that. Not staying at one place kind of sucked, but it was good. Kind of kept me on my toes.
Yeah, well, I was curious as you were mentioning that you told us that you have a bit of a history of being a pretty nervous kid. I'd love to hear about that and whether or not you think that being moved around so much as a kid had an effect on the fact that you struggled to develop social confidence.
Yeah, it certainly did. So my parents love them to bits. They didn't really get the whole understanding of, keep your kids active, feed them nutritious meals and stuff like that, which a lot of parents don't. Like, it's just standard to go and get McDonald's and all the rest of it, which is fair. So I put on a lot of weight. As a kid, I was always a hefty kid. I was a bit of a misfit, didn't really fit in anywhere. As I said, like, used to get teased and bullied for sounding different and like being a little bit more unique. Didn't think like everybody else. And I was kind of happy doing my own thing. Obviously, I had a few friends, but I wasn't invited to the parties and all the rest of it. And it like really broke me as a kid and as an early teen, because I'm like, what am I doing that, isn't cool, or isn't this or isn't that? And so I started doing stuff that wasn't me, and I didn't agree with doing it. And it kind of got me socially accepted, but it wasn't really lining up with who I was as an individual. But I was doing it because I thought it was cool, and I was being invited to parties and all the rest of it. And I just slowly transitioned into like a bit of a troublemaker. And when reality is like, I wasn't quite like that deep down. I was just doing it to kind of fit in. And I thought that was normal, right? So as the time went on, it just got worse and worse. Moving from place to place just got like, I guess, kind of just ruined me mentally, I guess, as a kid. Because like I would be somewhere for a year, and then my father or mother would pick me up and move me elsewhere. And so I never had those roots as a child with friends. And it really messed me up. So yeah, like in my earlier or later teens, I kind of struggled with like addiction issues and stuff like that. And I found that a lot of that key root and the whole reason why I went down that road is probably because I had no friends. I was lonely, I was depressed, I was overweight, and I was just sad. And I felt like that for so many years. And I finally kind of switched on to what I need to do to get me out of this feeling. And it was actually completely uprooting myself and moving myself elsewhere, like change cities, postcodes, you name it. I just started fresh, hit that reset button, and just kind of made a new me. And that was the best decision I've ever made. It was very hard taking that leap of faith, but I had to do it. I had to get away from it all and just kind of and start fresh.
Well, you've done well, man, and I'd love to dig further into that. But like transparently, when you first started working with us, Adam, who helped you to join working with us, and then after our first conversations with you, we were like, we want to go out for beers with this guy. He's awesome. He's so fun. He's just a fun guy to talk to. And it's interesting to hear you say that you came from being so super shy and struggling so much, and now you transitioned heaps. So that's a very inspiring journey. I remember, I don't know where I read it, but somewhere you said that you used to have your mum fill up your car with petrol because you didn't want to talk to people.
Yeah. So when I moved, I was 17, 18, kind of 19 in that stage of life. And I was 120 to 130 kilos. I was bald. I watched Breaking Bad, and I'm like, this guy's cool. Zip. Don't know what I was thinking, but
yeah, he's a real role model.
Yeah, right. So I shaved my head, made a mess of it, and then I was overweight. I had no real career. I had no real education. I just was a bit of a deadbeat, you know what I mean? And yeah, like I had a lot of issues in my in that town I was living in prior to me moving back there, with like students and teachers. I didn't have the best role model as a father, so he was very much like it just ruined my whole like upbringing and didn't teach me how to treat people nicely and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it ruins how I thought everybody thought like that, but reality is it wasn't. So when I would be making jokes, people were like, oh my God, like that's really mean. So I was nervous about running into people in this small town because of all the terrible stuff I've done. So I had this whole built up karma that was going to be, you know, hitting me on the shoulders later on down the track. So I was just nervous. I got in my own head. I was fat, I was overweight, I wasn't confident, and I wasn't happy with who I was as a person because all the terrible stuff I've done in the past. So I managed, as I said, I uprooted and moved from the situation. But when I go back to visit my mom and the rest of it, she still lives there. I don't care anymore, because you know what? Like, we're different people. Every day, every month, every year, we change. And if someone's willing to call me out on something I've done 13 years ago, it's like, man, like, nah, you can't be doing that. So I kind of just flicked the switch and just thought, you know what? Mistakes were made, we learn from them, and we move on. And if you're willing to do that, you're willing to succeed in life, because if you're holding on to your past, man, newsflash, no one cares.
Dude, 100%. That's a very, and I hate to keep touching on your age, but it's a very mature thing to say for a young person, to say that to realize that no one else really cares about you. In the sense that people care about you and your well-being, but no one really gives a shit what you're wearing, what you're doing for a job, how your hair looks, how your body looks. Like, the smallest example of this, the most superficial example, was I never liked wearing long board shorts, that, you know, the ones that go down to your knee and they just take ages to dry. And I bought a pair of those budgie smugglers, little Speedos.
Yeah.
Speedo. And I was like, I can't wear these out to the beach. People are going to see all of me. And then I was like, hang on, no one cares about what I look like at all. The only person who currently cares about how I look is me. And and you put on your budgie smugglers and go to the beach, and no one says a word, because they've got bills to pay and they've got their own insecurities and that kind of thing. It's hilarious to say. One of my favorite quotes is, you'll stop caring what people think of you when you realize how seldom they do.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful thing. And so it's a really, really good one to drive home there. Awesome. Okay, so you've gone, you mentioned that there was a time when you realized that you needed to make a change, and you did this massive shift of move towns, move towns, get yourself back in shape, make these big changes to where you are now. Was this more of a gradual process with a bunch of little taps on the shoulder, or was there one big kind of like baseball bat to the head moment that was like, William, you got to sort this shit out and fix it?
Basically just one big baseball bat. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I guess I'm comfortable speaking about it. But I was severely depressed at the state where like, unfortunately, ending it was like a daily thought. And it got so bad. Like, I remember driving to work and just thinking like, all right, like, you know, into the other lane. And I'm like, this is not how I want to be living. I was in a negative environment. I had negative people around me. I had friends that were chatting shit behind my back, and I didn't like my job. It was just, everything was dead ends. And I was like, just not happy with myself. There's so many negatives and cons. And eventually I just snapped, and I saw a buddy who was working in Kalgoorlie. Shout out to Jack Manning. And like, he was working, driving trucks at KCGM in the Super Pit. And I sent him a message, haven't spoken to him in like 4 years. And I was like, man, how do I get started? And then he's like, move over here, start handing out your resumes. And that's exactly what I did. I bought a one-way ticket. I had $1,300 to my name, $300 ticket, bought a cheap car and rent, and that was it. And I walked around, I printed out, my mom actually helped me print out a bunch of CVs. I went around to the Gold Bar, the Skimpy bars, and I just started talking to people there. As fat and unconfident as I was, I just thought, screw it, because what do I have to lose? I've come this far. Worst case, it doesn't work out, I'll go back to where I was. At least I gave it a shot. So yeah, I ended up getting a job the first day I was there. And it all worked out. It's crazy. I took that leap of faith, and it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because if I didn't make that decision, I don't think I'd be having this conversation with you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Fortune favors the brave. And I love those kind of just leap of faith stories of last few dollars in my account when I did the thing. Because I never did that. I've done the businesses, but I've always had some sort of safety net, and that I could work a job. I could always get a job making coffee, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and I love these stories, and it sounds like, you know, you can now talk the talk as a coach, as a leader, as a mentor, because you've done some incredibly hard stuff. There's a lot of people who come up through into coaching who've had a very, very just smooth ride. They've never really needed to go to the place where a lot of their clients are, which is like a rock bottom. So they can superficially tell them how to get out of there, but they can't feel it. So it's really good. I think it's going to be very helpful to your clients.
Definitely.
That you've been down there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice that I'm able to kind of, take a step back and look at their situation and be like, you know what, I wasn't too far off of what and where you are as a person, what you're going through. I mean, given I can't relate to divorce and stuff, but my family split up like maybe a year or two into coming to Australia, and I was on the other end of it. So I understand that, when families split, the kids are the ones that make that have the most suffering. So with a lot of my clients that are going through relationship issues, that are going through divorces, I'm able to kind of resonate with them still, despite going through a divorce myself. I've seen it firsthand, and I swear, it was one of the worst ones in history. So it was interesting.
I bet, man. I bet. I'm very blessed, touch wood, to have a very close-knit family, which is awesome. So you moved into the mines, and then you spent quite a few years in the Australian the mining industry, and a lot of the FIFO guys, which is, for anyone listening who doesn't know, that fly in, fly out, which is notorious for taking, a pretty hefty toll on men's physical and mental health. So can you just please paint us a little picture of what that fly in, fly out lifestyle looks like for some guys? Because I know they get paid really well to do it, because it's a pretty rough lifestyle. But can you shed some light on what that lifestyle looks like, some of the things you experienced in that fly in, fly out environment, and maybe why you think it is such a tough thing for men to experience, and women?
Of course. Yeah. So this is, of course, my own personal experience. Everybody has different experiences, and you can't just go off one person's kind of experience. But yeah, there was a lot of divorces and people getting divorced and relationships not working, that whole vibe. People, men being upset because they're not spending time with their kids, and their relationships are failing, and just a lot of sadness. Of course, there's some happy times. I had some of my happiest moments in the mines, going to work on the bus 5 a.m, having a laugh, and all the rest of it. Like, that's how it is. But the reality is, after you do your 12-hour shift, you're back either at the bar or you're back in your donga, which is your like little room, your little apartment, I should say. And you're by yourself, and it's very lonely. And of course, when you're by yourself, that's when that kind of black dog starts biting at your ankles. And a lot of guys are having that attitude of, oh, I'm fine, or I'm a man, and I don't need to face these. But it bites them in the ass, because eventually it catches up to them. They've been neglecting, their wife or their kids or this and that, and things start to fall apart. And I've seen so many people and so many men have this happen to them, and it's really unfortunate. Divorces and all the rest of it, it's so sad, and a lot of complaining, a lot of people complaining but not taking any action. So they were complaining about their job, complaining about not having enough time or doing enough things for the kids or this and that, but they weren't putting anything to action. And it drove me nuts, sitting there on the bus listening to, we'll call someone Dave, two rows up from me, saying how they wish that they spent more time with their kids, but you see them the break after, and they still haven't done anything. So it's just like, bro, you're not actually fixing these issues. You're just complaining about it for the sake of complaining about it. So that's kind of where I think my program plays such a key role in helping these fly in, fly out guys, is because we're actually making moves, we're making changes, and we're holding them accountable. So if they want to better their relationship, we're actually putting these steps in place to better their relationship. Of course, every individual is a little bit different, but end of the day, it all comes down to you. I can't make you do anything. You have to have the want. And so the beauty of this is, you know, our weekly Zoom meetings are you know, every second day I'll send a text message out to see how things are going, and holding people accountable. It makes them start thinking. It makes them start questioning, oh shit, maybe I should send a nice voice message to the girlfriend or partner or whatever. And it starts to make a change. And over the course of 6 to 12 weeks, however long they're in the program for, they're able to see a huge difference in whatever the area they wanted to focus on, you know, their relationship or their kids or whatever that may be. And it's a beautiful sight to see, because I imagine those bus rides are a lot less quiet, or they're not talking about, you know, they're not spending enough time with their significant others. So it's nice. I imagine I'm making a big change, and people aren't complaining as much. So it's good.
Well, that's the plan, man. And it's, that those little habits that create the big impacts over time. Because, I mean, the thing I think it's important to touch on is that self-sacrificing lifestyle is a very admirable thing to start off with. Because a lot of these guys and girls, they're going out there and they're choosing a lifestyle that is difficult and can be lonely for the sake of providing for their family, which is super admirable. But without proper systems in place to help them to come back and nurture that side of their life while they're over here, I can imagine that can be very, very tricky. And so while you're not able to, obviously, you know, you're not some hopped up little fucker coming in and saying, like, quit your job, man, just go and get a different job at home. To say to them, you know, okay, this is your situation, and maybe in the evenings, maybe when you're away, you can use the time away from your work just to implement some actions that will make you a 1% better dad when you come home, 1% healthier. Can we do something in the evening so that every time we come back, it's not just a conversation about money. There's a little bit of, you know, self-improvement every time they come back. And that's a cool thing. And it can be very, very difficult, as you mentioned, to get yourself into a positive mindset when you're A, alone, or B, surrounded by other people in a negative mindset.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had some dodgy friends back, you know, in your past life. Do you like, I feel like I've always had decent mates around me. Once again, touch wood, very happy about that. But like, when you've got a bunch of mates around you from personal experience who are bringing you down, firstly, what are the signs that maybe this isn't the right crowd to be hanging out with?
Sure. And of course, like, that was in the minds a lot, you know, that was in the minds. You have friends there, colleagues and stuff like that, and they're just negative people. And you start to click on because you're starting to think like-minded to them. It's crazy, but, you know, if there's two fruit beside each other and one goes off, that one that's good is going to start to become bad as well. So same with people. If you're in a negative atmosphere, then it's very easy to get roped in to start thinking like them. And so my own personal experience when I was in my mid to late teens was just that. I was around some people who were doing the wrong thing all the time. They had no real jobs. They had no real goals in life. And I was just like, well, these people are cool, and I'm going to follow through and be like them. And I disappointed my parents. I disappointed my grandparents. It was just, I didn't know what I was doing until I had that big breakthrough of like, you know what, these are all, you know, friggin' losers, and they're not going to get anywhere in life. And if I continue to be around these people, then I'm going to end up like that. It's just like that saying, you know, your closest 5 friends you're going to end up like. So surround yourself with the positive and people that you want to kind of aspire to be like. So I was just around some just idiots. And I think what really clicked on for me was just, I had a friend thankfully he's all right, but he got in a car crash, and there's a lot of speculation, we'll say, on why it all happened. I knew why. It was really unfortunate, and I just said, stay away from his ex-girlfriend. Like, just I told his mom, look, he's in the ICU. Just keep him away from that girl, all right? Everybody's like, oh, you're a woman hater, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, oh my God, guys. Like, you don't know the half of it. And it wasn't the case. And 3-4 years later, it comes out that I was right. And it was just like, you guys are idiots. Like, you pushed me away. You make all these false accusations on me. And here it was, I was right all the time. So if you want me to say hello to you or have a conversation with me on Instagram, it's like, nah, man, like that train has left the station, you know? So just bad people. And unfortunately I was just surrounded by a lot of them. So I was very fortunate to make that change and actually move away and whatnot.
It's tough to pull them out. I think that nowadays with social media, the internet, and the speed at which we can see content, you can obviously, with music and, you know, influencers, go very easily further down that path of, you know, I've got negative friends, so here's the negative stuff we talk about, here's the group chats that are all negative, and here's the videos we watch which are all negative. And, you know, I find myself jumping into, I love a good conspiracy theory, but then you jump into conspiracy theories and then you just see the, you know, you get away from the interesting part of it, and then you see all the negative people, and then you're like, oh, this is fun to watch. And then I catch myself at 11 p.m. like, I'm just watching people complain.
Yeah, you go down the rabbit hole and you find out, you know, 99% of everything in Woolies and Coles is bad for you. Yeah, it's like, oh man, like I kind of wish I didn't know that.
I'm like, I'm not going to be able to change anything just by listening to this guy. So I try, but it's very, very easy. The point I'm trying to make is that you can, at the rate we can consume content these days, you can have easily go down the very negative role model path and further into those little echo chambers of bullshit, or you can have more access than ever to positive role models. And this is something that we've talked about before with your marketing, is kind of the style of how you want to approach it, because there's a lot of very different male role models out there, hugely contrasting each other. And there's obviously no right or no wrong way to be a positive role model. But the two examples that I want to use, because I'm a huge fan of both of them, are pop star Harry Styles, who I love to bits. I was gutted that I didn't see him live. I bought tickets like 3 years ago, and then the whole tour was cancelled, and then I got them refunded and then didn't get them again. I love Harry Styles. I'm saying it out there. 1 year, about 4 years ago, I got a notification on Spotify saying I was in the top 1% of Harry Styles listeners on the planet. Because I listened to his debut album so many times. It's such a good album. Anyway, so Harry Styles. This guy jumps on stage with painted nails. He wears dresses. He's super duper, you know, he's slim, he's beautiful, wears like sparkly old school rock star clothes. And then you've got people like Joe Rogan, who I also think is fantastic. He's the epitome of masculinity. He's buff, he's tattooed, he can fight, he can hunt, he's rich, all this kind of thing, right? Both super successful, both adored by millions of people, both very magnetic and charismatic. Couldn't be more different. So in terms of these guys, you're someone who studies psychology, confidence, masculinity. Do you see any common traits in these two men that we can all follow, even though they seem so different on the surface?
Yeah, certainly, Alex.
Hey guys, Alex here. If you're enjoying this episode, please give us a moment to like, follow, or subscribe on whatever platform or channel you're watching or listening to this one. I really hope you're enjoying it. Let's get back to the episode.
So, both of them, very good, very different, but they're very successful. And one thing that they have in common that we can all take from and learn from is they're all confident, they have passion, and they're dedicated. You know, they have pride in themselves and they're comfortable with who they are as people. I said Harry's jumping up on stage in a friggin' dress, and it's just like, you know, you do that 20 years ago and you're like, what are you doing, man? But now he's like, screw it, I'll do what I want. Same thing with Joe Rogan. He'll talk about conspiracies and he'll have Alex Jones on the on air, and you're like, holy shit, but he doesn't care because it's what he wants, you know? You look at both of their Instagrams and they post what they want. They don't care about other people's opinions because it doesn't matter. In their eyes, they're living their life that they want to live. And I think we can all take something from that, because a lot of us are trapped in this whole bubble of, oh, I'm afraid to do this or I'm afraid to do that. I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be criticized. End of the day, as I mentioned at the start of this podcast, is no one gives two shits. Reality is no one does. And if they do care, screw them. You're never going to be criticized by somebody who's doing more than you. It's only people who are doing less. So, yeah, for, I guess, Joe and Harry Styles, if I could take one thing away to kind of spread their kind of message and what we can take, is definitely the limiting beliefs. They don't have any. They don't have any, you know? Joe Rogan, if he wants to go hunting for buffalo on a Tuesday in December and someone says you can't do that, he doesn't care. He's still going to go and do that. Same thing with Harry. If he wants to go paint his nails, he's going to do it. And he doesn't have any limiting factors in his life because he knows what he's capable of doing. And if he hasn't done it, they'll go and do it. So,
yeah, and it's interesting because that's really a really cool way of looking at it. They just both are authentic to themselves. And it'd be interesting to see whether, I'm sure with some people it's easy to say, okay, well, when you got $50 million, you can do whatever you want. But I kind of get the feeling with a lot of successful people that it is just doing what they want to do that got them successful in the first place, right? Because looking back at, for example, I just watched the Conor McGregor documentary on Netflix. It's like a mini series that he's recently done. And he's really good. Really extreme examples. But another guy who back when he had zero money, just had self-belief and just did what he wanted to do every day. Dedication was the word you use, and just not caring about what other people thought. Much easier said than done, but that was what propelled him from not just being a good fighter, but for being the absolute face of martial arts in the world. I'd never heard of the UFC before Conor McGregor came along. It's not my style at all, but I freaking love the guy. And it's just because it's that insane authenticity, I think. And I'm really glad to see that you recognize that when you were a kid, where it all went wrong was when you were trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
And now you're being yourself, and you're a happy dude. You look like a happy dude. Are you objectively a much happier dude these days than you were?
Well, 100%. Yeah. The second I flicked that switch and I was like, I don't care what people think. I'm gonna do what I want. If I have people out there saying that, oh, you shouldn't go and spend an hour in the gym every day. It's bad for you, or it's this or that. I don't care, because it's something that I want to do, and I feel good doing it. You know what I mean? I don't care about, this and that, or I'm afraid to post, or you just do what you want. And I think that, as you said, that is the key to living a successful life and living a happy life, is not having any boundaries in yourself and being what's the word? Authentic to yourself, because that's the only person that matters. Like, I'm sorry to everybody out there listening that, I'm trying to make such and such see me on Instagram. Screw them. They don't want to see it. They don't want to see it. You can't make people think, you can't make people think the way you think. And unfortunately, it's up to them. So,
yeah. Well, and not be able to, you can educate but not force people to change their opinions. And from what you just said, purely from a less philosophical standpoint, and more from a marketing standpoint, if you are trying to get followers on Instagram and social media, you're much better off having 300 followers who like you and may buy from you than 300,000 where like most of them are in Korea or like in the other side of the world, because that's a complete vanity metric. And that's really, really scary. And I'm sure we've both been caught up in that. Like you post something and it gets like 17 likes and you're like, I used to get 75. What?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. It's funny how it all works out. Like if you want to be different, we'll put it this way: if you follow what everybody else is doing in life, you're gonna be just like everybody else. You have to be different to the 99%. You got to think like the 1%, and that's when you have a change. If you're following, wearing, doing, working, everything else, copy and pasted like every other individual, then you're going to be just like every other individual. If you're sitting there not making changes to your life, you're sitting there, being a friggin' negative Nancy, then you're going to be like everybody else. It's hard to make that switch, but when you do, you realize it's good to be different. It's good to stand out. And that whole tall poppy, I remember when I first came to Australia, I think, don't be a tall poppy, don't be a tall poppy. Given it's all around the world, I think it's called tall poppy here. Yeah. Otherwise, you get snipped, you get plucked. And so years, I thought like that. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to stand out. Now that high school is done and all the rest of it, it makes sense to stand out. You go into a bar and there's 20 guys there with freaking hair slicked back, gold chain, wearing the same Prada friggin' t-shirt.
Going to,
you know what I mean? Like a club or something. They're all copy and pasted. You can say the same thing with like a lot of chicks at the gym will say it. Like it's copy and pasted. They all want a big ass and fake lips and all the rest of it. There's nothing standing out that's unique. Being a tall poppy, it's not there. So the second you start to stand out is the same second you start to differ away from the crowd. And I think that is the key to having that fulfilling life, is just to do what you want, be a tall poppy, and stand out. I think that's where people are going wrong.
Well, if that's my slight challenge to that would be, if that's what you are, if you're wanting to stand out, if you're trying to make a name for yourself, that sort of thing, then yeah, exactly. But I definitely hang out with, my wife, for example. She doesn't want to stand out, she's authentic to herself.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but I exactly know what you're trying to say. It's just what you're saying is just not what you're trying to say. What you are saying, William, is when you're trying to fit into someone else's mold, it's going to be very, very difficult to feel fulfilled if that's not the mold that naturally feels right on you. And I think age, people mature out of that sort of thing. I'm sure there's different circumstances, like whether or not you have a close family or a good, intimate relationship or some money. I'm sure there's a lot of factors that give you confidence.
There is, yeah, there certainly is. But yeah, you're right. I did probably vary off the track for that question. And you're right. It's like kind of in summary, I guess, for that, it's more or less just like, don't fit into a mold that you're not going to fit into. Don't be somebody you don't want to be. And that's I guess that's the key takeaway there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's, going back to the content thing and the role models on the internet, it can be very easy to just kind of slip into whoever you're listening to at the time. And I've seen it, like if I'm reading certain books which are very kind of like go business style, that's what I'm doing. If I'm reading like marketing books, I'm very markety. And then if I'm reading books about self-sustainability and gardening and that sort of thing, then that's what my main focus is that week.
Yeah.
There's so many different approaches to self-improvement these days, and it's especially I see in the men's space, because going back to Joe Rogan and Harry Styles, there is such a huge spectrum of how people coach, whether it's influencers, Instagram, business people, or fitness people. On one side, you've got that super hardcore, don't be a bitch, Navy SEAL, David Goggins, get out there, man up style, which can be very, very helpful for someone who is lazy and struggling to get up off the couch and probably in the situation you were in. But that can come with some venom to it. But then you also get the other side, which is a lot of, more maybe yogi style, slow down, stop trying to hustle, more self-love mentality, which is also helpful. I now believe that there's a balance in the two. You study psychology, which is something we haven't touched on just yet. I know you're actually in uni for psychology right now. Studying psychology and working with men in a coaching business, do you see any evidence or do you have any experience to suggest that one approach is more successful in helping men to get results, be it super hardcore or much more, I suppose, a much softer approach?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Alex, everybody's a little bit different and everybody has different pasts and upbringings they react differently. If I were to get somebody on the phone or on a Zoom meeting as a client and they've never stepped foot in the gym, I'm not going to go tell them 5 a.m., wake up, go to the gym, do this, because they're going to be overwhelmed and they're just going to be like, this is not what I want. So it's good to kind of interview each individual and figure out what works for them, because there isn't, unfortunately, a one program suits all. You know what I mean? I'd love just to send everybody to the gym at 4 a.m. and say that your life's going to be fixed, but you're not. It unfortunately doesn't work like that. And our brains are wired all differently, and we all have different experiences that make those brains different. And so taking that into consideration, and taking my own practice into consideration, I would like to think that a bit of both is where I kind of stand. And I know that's not the answer you wanted, but it's because not one answer suits all. It's good to ease that, say, person who sits on their Xbox and plays games all day, to ease them into the gym, but you can't just snap it and make them go to the gym. So I think having, people want motivation, but they don't know where to get it. And that motivation comes from discipline. All right. And once you have that snowball effect of discipline builds motivation, motivation builds discipline, you're unstoppable. And that's kind of what we do in the course is like, bit by bit, we're laying these bricks to build a brick wall. Shout out Trump. And, and we're able to, create these atmospheres and this environment for this individual of building these stepping stones and these, I guess, this wall for them where in this foundation where they're able to see, holy shit, look at what I've done. I went from not even knowing what a friggin' push-up is to being able to do 20 of them a day. I'm walking around the block. I'm feeling good about myself. And gradually over time, I'm making a difference for myself. Clothes are fitting differently. I'm thinking differently. And I'm having some really good changes that they can see in front of them, which is great. And in the practice, in my practices, I like to kind of set a foundation for the clients. So it's like, get the foundation laid properly. Get good sleep, get good exercise, and get good nutrition. Because end of the day, if you're eating Cheetos, staying up till 1 a.m. in the morning, getting 4 hours sleep, no matter if you have, $1 million in the bank and a Ferrari in your driveway, you're not going to be feeling too good. So getting that, and that goes for everybody, so getting that foundation laid, getting them feeling good, and kind of building on to that is the key, I reckon. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no right or wrong answer for that question. But I do like to kind of push towards the no bullshit attitude. It's just like, you know what you're capable of doing. Why aren't you doing it? Oh, I don't feel like it. Tough tits. Like, wake the frig up, get after it. You know what you do. You know what you have to do to succeed. So why aren't you doing it? No excuses. And I think that's why it's nice to have somebody holding you accountable, such as a coach or a mentor such as me, because we're able to hit them up and be like, bro, you done your push-ups? Have you done this? Have you done that? And if they're saying no, they feel bad. They have that attachment of like, oh shit, you know what? I should probably start listening to them.
Yeah, guilt is a tremendous tool for getting people moving. But yeah, it's I know I can tell that you have more of a disciplinary stance on all of this. And there's definitely a place that everybody needs that. You see it in business coaching as well. You see people who are all grind, all hustle. This is what you've got to do. And that can be very, very unappealing and stressful for, say, a mum who's just coming back to starting a business. And then suddenly they've got this, hopped up 29-year-old business coach being like, 5 a.m. wake ups, Gary V, work from 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. But then also you've got other people who are just like very manifestation style and just, just work intuitively and when it feels good. And most successful people I know are a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that probably starting off what you said that was really made so much sense was that everyone's got a different upbringing. They're coming from a different situation. So probably just knowing their starting line is the right way to make the decision of how to coach them. And I suppose that just comes with time. And that's the blessing that there's so many options out there. Coaching market is super saturated, but it does mean that there's something for everyone, which is a really nice part of it. And then there'll be times when people come to you or I for help and we won't be right for them. There's going to be someone we can send them to who will, whether that's just a book or a podcast or a person. So, all right, man. So we've gone pretty macro. I just want to go, straight up hardcore golden tips to wrap this thing up. So we don't get you on any more Donald Trump rants again. Another very authentic, confident guy, I'd imagine. Doesn't really shy away from saying what he wants to say. So, okay, sweet. So as a guy who's been really, you've come from real difficult times, struggled a lot, pulled yourself out of it, and now talking about helping other men just stack those good habits, stack those foundations, not trying to go a million miles an hour day one. If somebody is listening, they're already actually, if you're listening to this, you're already on the right path because you're listening to content that is designed to hopefully make a positive impact. But for these people, are there any simple little things that we can do on a daily basis to start increasing that self-confidence, maybe outside of the box, things that we maybe haven't heard of before that you found to really work?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So for all those people listening out there, hold yourself accountable. At the end of the day, no one, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, they're not going to come drag you out of bed to go to work. They're not going to come put your clothes on to go to the gym. Nobody is doing that but you. You need to take that action and do it yourself and hold yourself accountable. Start stacking those small mental wins of, oh, I had a cold shower this morning. I woke up at 4 a.m. I did what I said. I did what I wanted to do.
Well,
whatever the people are waking up to, whatever their things are. I'm not doing that, so don't think that I'm doing that. But whatever you're doing in life, no one is going to do it but you. So you need to hold yourself accountable. Start stacking those wins. Whether that be PBs in the gym or going and chatting to a nice chick that you met. Whatever that may be, you have to drag yourself to go and do that. And you need to start taking accountability and stacking those wins. So if I wanted to give any tips or advice, it's hold yourself accountable and actually do what you say you're going to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny that this whole podcast, I feel like people strive for golden nuggets people haven't heard before, but all you're saying is just basic stuff people forget to do because it's really hard. Right? In the accountability realm, there's one thing I've been doing lately, which I've found really eye-opening, is I've set limits on Instagram and YouTube on my phone, like time limits. And I think I get 15 minutes on Instagram per day, and I think I get an hour on YouTube because sometimes there'll be like a podcast or something on YouTube that I'll watch or I'll listen to it through YouTube. But so I give myself more time. But it's really interesting that when you're in the middle of watching something and then your phone goes, you've reached your time limit for the day on Instagram, it does give you a choice to ignore the limit.
Yeah,
and
15 more minutes.
100%. 100%. I do it all the time. I'll be like, no. I've got no problems here. I'm good. I'm disciplined. So I can do this. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting to see myself do that. And a few days in a row of ignoring, like hitting that Instagram snooze button, I really jump into, like, yesterday I had a very disciplined day. I did all the things I was meant to do and felt great for it. So that's been a really good hack for me, man. I think social media is a conversation that would take us another 45 minutes. So we'll do it another time.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely keen to do more podcasts with you, man. And yeah, like just holding yourself accountable and like keeping your word is so crucial nowadays, but also taking that limiting belief off yourself, because so many of us are in those negative environments and we're told like we're not capable of doing this, or we're not capable of doing that. And so we believe it. You know what I mean? We have a governor that's restricting us from achieving more because of someone put it on top of us. Someone put that on our life. So, that's another thing. Realize what you're actually capable of doing and get after it. Like that's a good tip right there.
It's been done before. It will be done again. And we talk about these stories in the podcast all the time, and it's really nice to hear yours. Billy Brokloff, mate, from Advanced Life Coaching, the Alpha Unleashed program. We're going to put all the links in the descriptions up and down. But brother, thank you so much for being here today.
No stress. Thank you very much for having me, Alex.
You're a rock star. And anyone who is listening or watching live or on the recording, we love you for that. Actually, we're not streaming live today because the internet was a bit dodgy. So anyone who is just on the recording, cheers for that. I'll be back on Thursday. Maybe we've got a show on Thursday. I'm filming on Thursday, so we'll see if we can stack it in there. But thank you so much. I'll be back very soon with another episode of Coaches to the Moon. Until then, thanks for listening. Much love and peace out. Hey guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. It means so much to us that you're listening to this content. If you enjoyed the episode, then please go to the show notes, the links in the description, to follow our guests on their socials. Check out our pages for clips from this podcast and many more with the world's best coaches. And you can even subscribe to our mailing list where you'll get free marketing resources into your inbox every single week. Know when the newest podcasts are out, and we'll help you with any free or special offers we've got. Thank you so much for doing that, guys. Love you to bits. See you next week. Peace out.
Coaches to the Moon will be back next week. Until then, reach us on Facebook at To The Moon Digital Marketing.